So today, folks, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to discuss and we are going to break down one of the most impactful court cases ever in the history of the United States, which created something that is known as judicial review. And it's a key phrase that everybody needs to make sure and understand with this. And what you guys are going to look at is specifically Marbury v. Madison and how it ended up creating a very big thing here in the United States of America overall, and then the different stuff that came out of it afterwards, which mainly would look at this idea of what can be reviewed, what cannot be reviewed, what can be changed, what can't be changed, and then how it went about that process in the first place. So this is the main thing. How has Marbury v. Madison impacted our U.S. society and everything else as a whole? So the main goal here is, the first part is, what do we know about the U.S. Supreme Court? What can it do? What does it not have the power to do at the exact same point in time? So the main thing behind this, guys, is Marbury v. Madison created this idea of judicial review and the Supreme Court. It is the idea that everything is up for review, everything up is for interpretation, everything, and this is the key thing, everything is up for change. Everything is up for change, at least at any given point. That's the main thing that people have with judicial review in a lot of different areas at the exact same point in time. So I wanted to just kind of break this down and help you guys read through this without having to read through the entire thing that kind of goes into it, at least at this particular point in time, and everything else at this particular point. So what was this whole thing about? What was going on to it? So Marbury was a guy by William Marbury, all right, who was basically upset with James Madison and this particular idea. So the whole point, at least behind this particular idea, is the idea and the issue that the Supreme Court should be having the power. So William Marbury was upset that he wanted to be a judge, so he wanted the Supreme Court to ask that he could basically go through and create a new, different area of working with this idea called D.C. and Washington, D.C. and everything else. So at this particular point, you had an issue between William Marbury and James Madison. All right, in 1789, they had passed a law, all right, saying people could start at the Supreme Court if all they wanted was a writ of mandamus. Basically, William Marbury wanted to be in the Supreme Court, and there had to be a way to go about it. So the decision said that Marbury had a right to receive his commission, but disagreed that the court had the power to issue the writ. Why? Because the Supreme Court gets its power from the Constitution, and the Constitution says only certain kinds of cases can go to the Supreme Court. That meant, all right, that 1789, the idea of somebody could just join up and do all this stuff was unconstitutional, need to be changed. So you had a big thing, right, that was going to be changed. So what? Why does this matter? Who cares so what about all these other different kinds of things? With this idea, it was the idea that even the Constitution can be changed. It all had to center around the idea of somebody wanting to join a Supreme Court and how you go about that process. With this, with Marbury v. Madison and William Marbury being denied his idea of joining the Supreme Court, just saying, hey, let me join and sign up with it. With him being denied, the U.S. Supreme Court basically said everything can be changed in the U.S. Constitution, even how we create the actual court that came up with that decision in the first place. So this is the main thing, and it's a very basic thing, but it also creates this idea of everything is up for change. That's the big concept to kind of come about with all these other different kinds of rules. So this is where you start to see all this other stuff. So if everything's up for change, how's this going to actually work out with all this other different kinds of stuff? So if you go through this and look at the main story, during President John Adams' last week in office, he decided to blank some men to be a blank of the peace. Okay, he wanted to appoint some men, all right, to to be the commissions of the peace. He basically John Adams wanted to put people in places like William Marbury in the U.S. Supreme Court to fix things that you can go through here and match all this stuff up. So the main concept, at least behind this particular idea, what law did Congress pass in 1789? How does it connect to this particular case? So if you go back and look at all these other different kinds of things, the law was basically the idea of law, judicial review, and everything else that can be changed thereafter. All right, how does it connect to this particular case? It is the idea, right, again, that how we appoint people, how we do things, no one or nothing is above change in the United States, right, of America. Okay, so why did the Supreme Court decide the law in 1789? Basically, so again, we'll open this back up because this is the main thing you can go back and see, right, as far as all this directly. They said it was unconstitutional because the power comes directly from the Constitution, and only certain things can start at the Supreme Court. That means in 1789, law passed by Congress was unconstitutional. Congress does not have the power to allow more kinds of cases. So they wanted to basically go through this whole system. So here's the big thing. The Supreme Court can't just decide anything that it wants. That's the main thing. You have other ideas that the executive and legislative branch have to go through. So the big thing is, yes, there is, all right, a judicial review as far as all these other different things, right, are decided upon, okay, and what goes into it overall and the other different kinds of factors. That's the big thing to kind of look at. But, okay, each branch has a job. The Supreme Court cannot do it all, nor do they want to do it all. Okay, it's the basic idea of certain decisions do not need to be left up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can only decide things that are unconstitutional. Now, again, everything is up for judicial review. But who gets to decide what's right and wrong in that review? That's where it's up to each individual branch. If something is unconstitutional, that's a job for the U.S. Supreme Court. All right? If something is violating an amendment or everything else, that's at the Supreme Court. If somebody doesn't like something that happened, like when they're driving down the interstate, that's a job for another court system. If somebody wants a law changed or other things like that, that's something to look at, creating new laws in Congress. So it's a main thing that you need to go back and look at. That's why this is such a big deal. Marbury v. Madison is a big deal because it created the idea of judicial review. It also said that each individual area can decide each individual things. That's a big concept to kind of go back and make sure we understand about all these other different major details of this. Marbury v. Madison. This case marked the first time the Supreme Court declared a law unconstitutional. Again, yes, this was the idea the first time. Marbury v. Madison was the first time anything in the entire United States of America Constitution was ever changed. It was the first time anything was ever changed, at least at this particular point in time. All right? It marked the beginning of this concept that would be known as judicial review. It's a big deal. All right? Most people think, oh, it's not that permanent. It's not. Nothing's permanent. And that's what some people have an issue with, because some people think, hey, no matter what, it's always going to be this way. No, it's not. There's nothing in the United States Constitution, no rule or law that is ever 100% set in stone. There are different ways to go about changing rules and laws and stuff in the United States. That is why Marbury v. Madison was such a big deal, and why it was such a critical court case for other people to basically go through and understand in a lot of different ways. Again, why was this one of the most ever? Obviously, here at the top, judicial review is the biggest, and I'll put this in caps. Everything is up for change. All right? And then the next big one that everything has, each branch has its own job to do. So the Supreme Court is not going to be the end all of everything. They're going to decide some stuff, but they're not going to basically do it. So it promotes this idea of what we call checks and balances, and separation of power as well at the exact same point in time. And then finally, again, first time for change. These are just some bullet points you can use, guys, to type out your answer if you'd like, at least at this particular point. So again, this is why Marbury v. Madison was such a big deal. It opens up the door for huge amounts of change to happen in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. You start to see different things that happen in different points in time, all right, and then major things would come up as far as the separation of power for different branches, all right. So again, guys, please make sure and look at this. If you have any questions, write it down, and I hope you guys have at least seen why this is such a big deal. And it was a small thing at the time, but it created huge change in the way we run and structure our system of government and how we run the United States of America.